Welcome to the first video in this course. We're going to give you an overview of what you'll learn in this class, as well as introduce what we call the data science lifecycle. And that's a framework we'll be returning back to throughout the course. So what exactly is a data scientist? Great question. I actually think if you ask 10 different current data scientists, you'd likely get 10 different answers. This is really a rapidly evolving field. But at the core, this field takes data and analyzes it with the goal or the hope of making better informed decisions once you're able to use what the data's told you. Along those lines, I've had people often ask, well, wait, what's the difference between data science versus AI versus machine learning? These are, again, all very rapidly evolving fields. And so where we draw the lines between their intersections or overlaps, I would argue are constantly being redrawn. But here's one way of visualizing. At least this is a way of visualizing the key skill sets needed in data science. So you can think of data science here as the intersection of hacking skills, math and stats knowledge, and then also just expertise about the area in which you're analyzing the data. A complementary view to this original Venn diagram is actually adding in a fourth category, which deals with entrepreneurial capacity. And I would say in recent years, that's been very true in this field, because you can see now all of a sudden we have in this Venn diagram many more distinct little subcategories of data analysts versus decision scientists versus data scientists. Again, the overlap and the lines where they're drawn is somewhat arbitrary here, but it's at least to give you a sense of the skills needed and where they overlap and how they apply in these fields. Both of these pictures don't really talk about the actual topics in data science versus AI versus machine learning. Again, these are constantly changing, but one snapshot pretty recently that I'd like to explain this is showing how data science does overlap in many areas with machine learning and AI. And there's also some parts of data science which are considered more unique to data science itself, with data preparation, the visualization, data processing. So we will be looking at these parts here that are unique to data science, as well as starting some modeling inside here and looking at how we can create models to help us do some predictions from our data. Okay, so why does this field matter? Well, yes, I think we all agree the world's complicated. Yes, I would agree decisions are hard. I think what's really unique about this time in history is just the immense amount of data that we actually have at our fingertips. And whether or not we can use that to help us make more informed decisions is an important question. So currently, we use data to answer hard questions and make tough decisions in a huge variety of different fields. But I will caution you, and I'm hoping this course will help you to see some of these nuances. It's usually not easy to tell what the data, quote, says. And so a huge goal of this course is going to empower you with the language and the knowledge to be able to participate in arguments about data and how it may or may not affect decisions in a way that's more well-informed and that allows you to appreciate that it's not always black and white. And this is one possible way of viewing the way that data has been changing the world and looking at technology trends over the last several decades. And I would argue, 2020s are still open to interpretation as to what's going to come away as the main technology trend, but certainly advancements in artificial intelligence and machine learning have been really dominating the field as of recent. And so this is just one way of thinking of how we have gotten to where we are now, where we have this immense amount of data. We have the ability to use it for good or for not so good. And that leads me to the fact that it's not always going to be used by everyone for good. And this book is a great introduction. I would highly recommend it to help you get some insight into the fact that analyzing data and using it to make decisions can lead to reinforcing historical trends and biases. Whether or not you are meaning to do it, it's something that can happen. It can also obscure complex decisions. So I really find it's important to be as educated or well-versed in this area as possible so that you're able to navigate some of these more complex issues that underlie some of the decisions that may seem, quote, obvious from the data. And we will discuss the ethics of data science in little pieces throughout this course, through some of the examples we'll use. But ultimately, like I said, I am optimistic. I really do believe knowledge is empowering. And so the more people that we can educate in this area, I do believe offers immense potential for addressing problems that are currently facing our society today. So yes, the future is in your hands, but I do have faith in you. So another key answer as to why data science is that it really enhances critical thinking. It's fundamentally a human-centered field that's helping to facilitate decision-making by adding in a quantitative side. And so, to be able to do this reliably, we have to be able to find relevant data. We have to be able to recognize its limitations, ask the right questions, learn how to make reasonable assumptions, conduct appropriate analysis, and then synthesize and explain our insights. These are all important skills that are going to be reiterated throughout the course because it's continually part of the data science lifecycle. So after this course, it's my goal that you should be able to take data and produce useful insights. It will involve applying critical thinking and skepticism at every step. And really, ideally, I hope you walk away with this considering how these decisions that may seem so easy because it's just a math answer, my math says this, I really hope you're able to step back and say, actually, what is the real effect this will have on the human being at the other end of this decision? Okay, so what is this course? This is called Principles and Techniques of Data Science. So good data analysis is not just learning a bunch of statistical recipes or learning a bunch of different software algorithms and throwing data at it. There are many tools out there, but really the key human need in this field is doing the important thinking part, deciding which tools to use, how to interpret their output. Here's some examples of broad questions that we might try to answer with data science. So recommendations are a huge question along the lines of data science. Which market should you focus an advertising campaign? Is this algorithm for either prison sentencing or deciding the taxes on different houses or housing valuations? Are those fair? What areas of the world at higher risk for climate change impact in the next 10 years or the next 20? Where should we put docking ports for these bikes? These are all examples of things that are not necessarily easy to answer with just our basic human intuition. And they're examples of where having a data-driven analysis and data-driven decisions can really lead to better outcomes. All right, what are the principles and techniques that we're talking about here? So the course goal is really to prepare you for advanced courses in machine learning, AI, and advanced data science. Also to enable you to be able to start careers as data scientists, and ultimately to empower you to be able to take both your math and statistic knowledge as well as your computational knowledge to address more complicated real-world problems. This is a list of the topics that are going to be covered in this course. And so we'll be starting out with an introduction to the computing tools, pandas and NumPy, and then using that to learn how to load and explore data, visualize data. And then we'll move into the part of the course where we build a lot of the theory for the predictions that we'll be making. So we'll do a probability and statistics for data science, and during that process, introduce some key statistical ideas and some key probabilistic ideas that will help us be able to draw inferences from data. And then we'll finish the course with some intro to machine learning modeling. We'll be doing simple linear regression, multiple linear regression, and logistic regression, as well as covering some of the important parts of those modeling processes, including feature engineering and cross-validation. So what is the data science lifecycle? If you Google data science lifecycle, lots of different images come up. The one that I am going to be teaching in this course and continually referring to is going to at its core, have the same ideas that you may see in any one of these other versions. So think of this as a high-level description of our workflow. And really, in our visualization, there's two distinct entry points. Sometimes you start out with a question and go from there. Sometimes you start out with data and go from there. And sometimes you start out with both. When we start out with a question, a key piece is really trying to formulate this in a way that will lead to us being able to make useful conclusions. So we have to think about, what are the hypotheses we want to test? What are our metrics for success? What is the type of data we're going to need to obtain to answer this? One of the other entry points is actually starting with data. So sometimes you already have the data, in which case it's like, what do I have? What does this data represent? How was it obtained? Is it representative of the population I'm interested in trying to study? Could I sample more? Do I need to? And then the next part of the process is often trying to understand the data. And we'll do that via exploratory data analysis and visualization. We'll look at things like, how is the data organized? What are possible biases or anomalies or issues with the data? And how could we transform this to help us do more effective analysis? Then getting from the understanding the data to understanding the world, that line there really is where the probability and statistic background is needed in order to make that step. Because we want to take a sample of data and say, can we make some inferences about what this tells me about the entire population? And how robust are our conclusions? Can we trust the predictions? So throughout the course, we'll be continually revisiting this life cycle, starting at different entry points, sometimes looking at asking a question as our starting point, sometimes starting just with data. And we'll see that you move around from this. Sometimes looking at the data leads you to a new question. Sometimes trying to understand the world, again, leads you to a new question. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we want you to be empowered to present your results in a way that can be meaningful and interpretable for your audience. So I'm excited that you've decided to join this course and look forward to working with you throughout the upcoming lessons.